Thanks again for joining me here at butnowministry.org, and today we're going to talk about the King James Bible, the Textus Receptus, and Easter. Most of the men's ministries who use and promote the King James Bible don't believe it's without error. Instead, let me say that one more time. Most of the men ministries who use and promote the King James Bible don't believe it is without error. Without error. Perfectly preserved, right? Instead, they will use adjectives such as best, reliable, and such like. But their final authority is a Greek text, exactly as the liberals. Isn't that amazing? Because God, in His Word, puts His Word above His own name. 138, Psalm 138, verse 2, right? And these guys clearly, and this person who responded on my YouTube channel clearly does not put God's word above his own name, just like God would, but they don't. But they claim to be following Jesus, right? They claim to be following God, right? Well, they're not following God when he puts his own word above his name. Psalm 138, verse 2. These men will point to the Textus Receptus and correctly state that the Textus Receptus and the majority text stand with the King James as opposed to the Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Westcott and Hort. But what they leave unsaid is they think the King James has errors in it, which they correct with their Textus Receptus. The Berean Bible Society is an example of people who use the King James but correct it with whatever Greek suits them, sometimes the Textus Receptus, but most often the critical text of Westcott Hort nestles. However, most of the King James pretenders point to the Textus Receptus. You already know why that's a problem. There are several different Textus Receptus New Testaments, which, again, this gentleman on the YouTube post does not know anything about. And they do not agree with each other. That's right. There are several different Textus Receptus New Testaments, and they do not agree with each other. The Desiderius Erasmus Textus Receptus was published in 1516, the Stephans in 1550, the Elzevir in 1624, and Theodore Beza in 1884, and in 1894, F.H.A. Scrivener put together another Textus Receptus, and in its preface he said that he knew of more than 30 Textus Receptus editions. So there's not only several that stand out, there are 30 others which do not agree with one another. So when this person posted on YouTube, the King James follows the Textus Receptus, like I had said, which one? Because none of them agree with each other. Effectually, what that means is your King James pretender who appeals to the Greek is doing almost exactly the same thing as the liberals who go from Greek text to the text until they find the reading that suits them. Right? Isn't that really the function of all the new translations? I used to do that myself. I used to pick up the NASB and read a verse, then I would go to the NIV, and then I would go to the New King James, and I would say, wow, I like what it says in the New King James better than what it says in the NIV, better than what it says in the NASB, thus creating no final authority in your life. Oh, maybe your scholar and your pastor is, but not God's Word. And this is exactly what they're doing. You see this happen in the footnotes, or just about every book the Berean Bible Society publishes. Additionally, when the King James pretender appeals to the Greek, he is telling the exact same lies the liberals. There is no original Greek. No Bible in English matches any Greek text. And just as there are many conflicting readings in the critical text, there are many conflicting readings in the several Textus Receptus editions. Did you hear that? No Bible in English matches any Greek text, but they go to the Greek. It's amazing to me. Now, it's amazing to me all the debates that are out there. The reason why there are so many debates is because people do not know the information that's out there. That's why there's debates. Most of the debates are ignorant debates. They have no information. Just like this person. It's a copy of the Textus Receptus. They give no information. It's the same thing when they go to the Greek text. They don't tell you which one. There are over 5,600 Greek texts, and none of them are the same. And they tell you, oh, it's better in the Greek, but they don't tell you which Greek text they get it from. It's absolutely astounding that nobody realizes what they're doing. Now, let's look at the errors in the Greek that is correct in the King James Bible. What? Errors in the Greek? That's right. We're going to correct the Greek text with the Bible, God's perfectly preserved word. Go figure. I put the Bible above the Greek. What? Well, God puts his own word above himself, above his name. Psalm 138:2. Like I said, my Bible corrects all other texts, including the Textus Receptus. The King James English is superior to any Hebrew or Greek text. Let me say that one more time. The King James English is superior to any Hebrew or Greek text. Now, there's a statement that'll get you thrown out of a lot of very nice places by people who do not study, but here is proof. Every Hebrew text ever found, remember, we do not have any of the original manuscripts, and every new translation since 1881 reads as follows, and every one of them is wrong. Did you hear that? Every one is wrong. Every Hebrew text is wrong. And here it is, 2 Samuel 21:19. And when I first learned this, my brain was twirling around. My eyeballs were rolling in my head because I never saw this, ever. Why? Because I was never taught by a Bible believer. I was never taught by a mid-Acts, dispensational Bible believer. Okay? Better yet, a mid-Acts, dispensational, Pauline, right divider of my King James Bible. I was never taught by someone like that. And here's the verse, 2 Samuel 21:19, in your new translations, okay? That would include your NASB, your NIV, and the best one of the bunch that are the same text, the Jehovah Witness Bible, the New World Translation. As a matter of fact, let me read it right from the Jehovah Witness Bible, shall we? 2 Samuel 21:19. In your Jehovah Witness, if you want to call this a Bible, I call this a translation. So 21:19, and war arose once again with the Philistines at Gob, and Elhanan, the son of Jeroham, the Bethlehemite, got to strike down Goliath the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like the beam of loom workers. Now let me read it in your NASB. You ready? That was the Jehovah Witness text. Now let's read it in the NASB, because that's the most popular, and this is the same as your ESV. This is the same as your New King James, okay? And there was again a war with the Philistines at Gob, and Elhanan, the son of Jeroham, the Bethlehemite, slew Goliath the Gittite, the staff of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. I think it's a little more clear in your Jehovah Witness text. What do you think? Jeroham, the Bethlehemite, got to strike down Goliath the Gittite. Wow, so they have, let's take a look at this. You know, and I know, David killed Goliath, and that verse that I just read in the New World Translation, in the NASB, in the ESV, in the New King James, is incorrect. because they have Jehoiakim killing Goliath in the new translations. Wow, I thought it was David. And every Hebrew manuscript ever located reads the same way, which is wrong. But your King James Bible has it right because the translators added the words. That's right. They added the words. The words that are added in your King James Bible are in italicized words. So the reader, you and I, can see where they corrected the Greek and the Hebrew text that was wrong. Okay? And that's the issue. What these people do when they make a new translation, they copy it from any Greek text and they don't make any changes to the errors. These are just copies and copies, folks. But they don't care. This is the scholarship we have today. People that don't care. Better yet, unsaved people who call themselves scholars. Your King James Bible has it right because the translators added the words "the brother of" to give you an accurate Bible. And here it is, 2 Samuel 21:19. In your King James Bible, God's perfectly preserved word without error. Psalm chapter 12, verses 6 and 7, Psalm 138, verse 2. And there was again a battle in Gob with the Philistines, where Elhanan, the son of Jehoiakim, a Bethlehemite, slew the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the staff of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. By adding in italics the words "the brother of," the King James gave you an accurate Bible rather than an accurate translation of what had to be an incorrect reading in the Hebrew. The King James translators knew David had killed Goliath and that Goliath had brothers. Well, how did they know that? Because they can read their Bible. In 1 Chronicles 20, verse 5, you get that information. And there was a war again with the Philistines, and Elhanan the son of Jair slew Lami, the brother of Goliath the Gittite. So that's who Elhanan slew, whose spear's staff was like a weaver's beam. And so there you have it. The King James English is superior to every Hebrew manuscript for 2 Samuel 21:19 ever found. And by adding the brother of, which is in no manuscript, the King James translators gave you an accurate Bible. Every Greek manuscript ever discovered, remembering the originals are nowhere to be found, and every Greek New Testament ever compiled, whether corrupt critical text or the majority text, and the several Textus Receptus New Testaments have the word Pascha in Acts 12, verse 4. The King James Bible has the word Easter in place of the word Passover, and that is universally regarded as a mistake. Acts 12, verse 4. And when he apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Now, I had just gotten a new publication from The Real Truth. It's a magazine. It's called A Magazine Restoring Plain Understanding. And in the footnote, in the beginning, it says, "The Restored Church of God quotes scriptures from the King James Bible unless otherwise noted." And they have a whole article in here on page 26, Easter and the Bible. And in it, it says, "Lost in translation." The idea of Christ's resurrection was injected into the old practice of Easter observance, and not the other way around. The Greek word translated Easter in Acts 12:4 is Pascha. This refers to Passover, which was always kept on the 14th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, Abib. It was Passover, not Easter, that God commanded his people to observe, and they did so throughout early New Testament. Easter in Acts 12:4 is a gross mistranslation. So here in this The Real Truth magazine from the Reformed Church of God, they claim that when they're not using the King James Bible, they will tell us, but here they attack it. Like I had said in the beginning, the people who use the King James Bible don't believe it. You may have been led to believe the King James translators weren't very bright or were prejudiced, or that they had missed that every Greek manuscript says Pascha, right? But such is not the case. In fact, they put Pascha, Passover, in the margin. Wow! Their reason for using Easter was Acts 12, verse 3. Oh, context? Really? Context. Context. Verses defining verses. Not scholarship defining the verse. Not your dictionary defining the verse. Not your Greek defining the verse. Not your Hebrew defining the verse. But the Bible defining the verse. Imagine that. And because he saw it please the Jews, Acts 12 verse 3, and because he saw it please the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread, because they knew from that verse that Passover had passed, because they can read their Bible. In Leviticus 23 verses 5 and 6, in the 14th day of the first month at even in the Lord's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. Peter had made it clear that it was the days of unleavened bread, and so Passover was passed, just as certainly as 15 follows 14. And as it says in almost every King James Bible ever printed, the King James was translated out of the original tongues, and with the former translations diligently compared and revised. Remember again the 10th rule. There is a principle here which would do well to learn. Elimination of error results from debating the material. Remember, the King James translators, they debated and argued until it was correct in the text. And that's another thing that I don't understand. The debaters today do not understand that the King James translators debated every word, every verse in the King James Bible to make it correct. So when people are debating about the King James Bible today, they have no clue that they already took care of all this to make sure it was correct. But yet they'll come out of the woodwork and say, oh, it's incorrect. And the only reason why they say it's incorrect is because they go on Google and find 3 or 4 guys that agree with them, because 3 or 4 more guys are ignorant to what the truth says, and then they attack the King James Bible believer and tell them that the Greek is superior. But again, they never tell you which Greek text, because they're ignorant. Luther's translation in German had said Easter, as had the bishops, as had Tyndale's, which was before the King James Bible. And since it was the pagan Herod speaking in the verse, the King James gave you an accurate Bible rather than an accurate translation of an errant text. And there it is. The King James is an accurate Bible. The new versions are accurate translations of bad texts. They are. They're accurate translations of the Greek text that they copied, but they never corrected. They are accurate translations of the Hebrew text that they copied, but they never corrected. And that's what you get. That's what you get from our scholarship today. Like I said, unsaved scholarship producing unsaved people who attack saved King James Bible believers. And this is what you get on the internet. Origen's Hexapla, the mystical mythical Septuagint, Eusebius, Augustine, and Jerome's Latin all render Mark chapter 1 verses 2 and 3 thusly. Mark chapter 1 verse 2 and 3. Even as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, who shall prepare thy way, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, Make ye ready the way of the Lord, make his path straight. But half the quote is from Malachi and is not found in Isaiah. Malachi 3, chapter 3, verse 1. Behold, I send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek will suddenly come to his temple, and the messenger of the covenant whom ye desire, behold, he cometh, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now notice, they just have Isaiah the prophet. And so your King James 1769 has it right in Mark chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, because your Hexapla and your Septuagint and Eusebius and Augustine and Jerome, it's Latin, miss the cross-reference in Malachi. And the King James has it right by saying, as it is written in the prophets, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, because it's not just in Isaiah, which shall prepare thy way before thee, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his path straight. So again, there it is. The King James is an accurate Bible. The new versions are accurate translations of bad texts. And this is what happens when you go to a seminary and your scholars and your pastors are teaching you, just like at Liberty Baptist, when I was talking to my friend who just started going, and